Ya Ali Madad. Welcome to this podcast on employability anxiety in collaboration with the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board and Aga Khan Health Board. My name is Nurbanu Samani. Today, I'm very fortunate to be joined with Rosman Mukhi, who is going to help me provide some strategies and answer some common questions when it comes to coping with anxiety when searching for employment. Rosman is a psychotherapist with over 20 years of working in the NHS as well as in university. She also has 2 private practices. She works on multiple platforms that is supportive and enabling a wide range of mental health issues. Thank you very much, Rosman, for taking the time to join me today.
Not at all. Thank you, Nurbanu.
I just want to take the first couple of minutes just by discussing healthy anxiety. Anxiety can often be triggered by stress. Stress is our natural response to feeling under pressure and can often be helpful in small doses as it can motivate us and give us an energy boost to get things done. For example, feeling anxious about getting a job might be the only thing that makes us complete that job application rather than lying in bed on a Sunday morning. So healthy anxiety does not stop you from reaching your goals, but rather stimulates you to reach them. So with this in mind, Rosman, when does stress get in the way? And what does anxiety when completing a job application look like? What are the common signs if anxiety is disrupting your application process?
Well, thank you for that intro, Nurbanu. Like you said, I think it is important to acknowledge that a little bit of stress is like a springboard. It gives you impetus, it gets you off the bed or off the sofa, and it helps to motivate you to apply for a job. I think the problem happens when we have a negative narrative and then we start ruminating, and then it becomes like a hamster in a wheel. It just goes round and round, and there's no opening to go anywhere. And I think we get more stressed when we do that. Now, research suggests that our brain, which in normal, happy, positive time does not function or utilize 100% of what it offers. So somebody like me during those times probably just uses 45% of his capacity. Now, during times of stress, it seems like we get the capacity to lower by 1/3%. So somebody like me in good times is 45%. During times of stress, it goes down to 15%. Now, when that happens, it feels like you got a foggy brain. It's like you can't drive on autopilot. You're constantly checking and you're saying, do I need to cross that road? Do I need to turn left? Do I need to turn right? Have I passed the Kentucky? And you're constantly checking and you're constantly trying to figure out what the right thing is. So that is one sense of how you would feel when you're stressed. I think the other sign is you can feel your heart pounding in your ears as if you can't hear. You can hear somebody from a distance, or you can see the lips moving, but you can't actually understand what they're saying. These are all signs of high anxiety. But I think what we need to remember is, like Heidegger, a really well-known philosopher, says, I'm sure you all heard of him, and he says, that's not a bad thing. When I'm doing a presentation, when it's really important, I feel sick to my gut. I feel like, what am I going to do tomorrow? This is really anxiety provoking. But that's a reminder that actually what I'm going to do tomorrow is really important. So I need to focus and I need to look after what I'm going to do, pay more attention to the presentation. So for me, when you are stressed, it actually tells you what you're going to do is really important, and therefore you should just put your best effort into it.
Definitely. Thank you so much for putting that into perspective for us. This now leads me to my next question. Can you provide us with 3 top tips to overcome employability anxieties?
Well, yeah. So I will start by saying trust. Trust your skills, trust your knowledge, trust your abilities, trust yourself. So for me, the first thing, first tip is to actually be confident in the knowledge. What do you know about yourself? Trust your abilities, trust your skills, trust your resume. It's really important. And therefore, be positive when you're applying for a job. Tell your prospective employer, your future employer, this is what you have to offer. Rollo May, a really good psychologist and a writer, says, and I'll quote, "It is ironic habit of human beings to run faster when we've lost our way." So the second tip would be take a break. Have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, just walk around, take 10 minutes out of your job writing application resume and just go for a walk. And the last one, I think is a really important one, is to get somebody else to read your resume or your application form. And I think that way you kind of get a sense of what the third person is going to read and get a sense of, because sometimes when we are working on it, we're so emotionally tied to it that we don't really want to criticize our own work. So get somebody who you can trust, a friend who's got skills, who's going to give you really good advice.
Definitely. Due to COVID-19, many people are now having to apply for work positions that they've never done before. Can you provide us with some insights into how to prepare for change in your new job role?
That's a really important question, especially in these times of COVID, as you say, Nurbanu. I'm working with people who've been furloughed, who don't know whether they're going to go back to the same job, whether their jobs are going to be changed. And yes, we need to look at transferable skills. And I think if you look at your contract, I know my contract said that. So I wonder how many other contracts say that actually, depending on the times, they could actually redeploy you in another job. So maybe it's a good thing that they're saying that, because what they're saying is that we're employing you for a job, but you have other skills as well. So they're already recognizing that you could do a job in this particular department, but you'd be good enough in other departments. And how do you do that? Is by valuing your skills, not just at work, but outside of work. For example, if you're a parent, then you must have really absolutely positive skills on how do you parent a child. You must have patience. You must be ready to answer their awkward questions. If you like cooking, then what about your time management? What about your finance? You're probably cooking on a budget, probably cooking in a time constraint. So think about all those valuable skills, as well as when you're volunteering. Those skills are really useful and positive. But having said that, please bear in mind, if you're a butcher, please don't go applying for a job as a brain surgeon. That's not transferable skills, okay? But if you work in a local chemist as a pharmacist and you now want to apply to, say, a hospital like Bupa, a private hospital, or the NHS, which is really a big department and more people to manage, then I would say your skills are transferable, your skills are good. And also remember, if you got 80 to 90% of the skills that a job requires and you got really strong skills, sell yourself. Make sure your attitude tells the employer you're good enough to be hired.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
On another note, university students will be graduating in a couple of months' time. The prospect of leaving university and finding a job can be frightening, especially given the current situation. Do you have any advice for the students that will leave university this year and apply for graduate jobs in terms of managing their natural concern and anxieties?
Wow, Nurbanu, you asked some really tough questions. It reminds me of a quote by Dalai Lama. He says, if it can be solved, there's no need to worry. If it can't be solved, then worry is of no use. So I'm going to take that challenge by asking you a question. I mean, do you remember when you left home and you went to university? Scary stuff, right? It's like, what are people going to think of me? How am I going to make new friends? Will I manage money? Millions of other questions come to our mind. But the result is that you survived. And for me, that's really important, that, when we've created an understanding of what our past experiences are, then we should also remind ourselves how we succeeded with those scary moments. And it's not that you're perfect, but you can actually action plan and say, I survived in that way. I can manage to now get my goals back into action and I'll do better. So in many ways, I think what I'm trying to say is, first of all, your body cannot predict the future. So just because you're anxious today, it does not mean you're going to fail. It does not predict the future. Your body is not clever enough to do that. What your body is doing is trying to remind you of the past, similar experiences that you've had in your past. I would suggest look at them and understand how you manage them, and then you can action plan them and put those kind of understandings into your present. So I would say, there's a saying, make all your todays and tomorrows because of your yesterdays, not the same as your yesterday. So actually look at your past and create new presents and new futures. So I would leave that point as where it is with that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. On to my next question. Job searching can be stressful, even for the most confident person. It can be more challenging if you're anxious and worried about the whole hiring process, and if you'll actually be hired for that new position. Do you have any coping tips for the job search anxiety?
Well, I know research suggests that mindfulness, meditation, breathing exercises, they are all really useful. And I mean, especially mindfulness, it creates new neurological pathways for you to be able to start new habits and stay with those new habits. So they're really useful for you to use them for de-stressing and releasing your anxiety. So I would really advocate that. I think also prayers are really good. And I think, it gives you the grounding and it gives you, your faith. And so I would just say, for me, that they're really easy to do and economically available to you inside your home. So I would really advocate those. Yeah.
So just on to the next question. If someone is unemployed, the stress can be heightened with concern about the time it will take to find a new job and how you're going to pay the bills until you line up a new position. Do you have any strategies to turn the job search into a positive experience rather than a difficult one?
Well, I think, first of all, I think have a routine. I think that's really important. Have your diary filled up. And I would really say that, have your breakfast, get dressed. Don't get caught out with half dressing like Christopher Reeve's son did when he was doing the interview as an anchorman. Make sure that you're ready for all availabilities. Everything that throws at you, you're ready to grab. And I also like the SMART acronym. I think many of you already know this. It stands for small, measurable, achievable, realistic targets. So make sure your diary has SMART every day. And I mean, you're not going to start running a marathon in a day. So make sure all your goals are achievable and they are realistic. So those two are really important for me. I think the other one is list your achievements. And I think if you do them every day, by the end of the week, it will have grown and it will be burgeoning. And I think it will help you to understand how many achievements you have got, how employable you are. And I think that's really important. Don't forget your volunteering skills and experience. They count in your job application. And I think also focus on what's in your control. Don't worry about things that are not in your control. And, I think also remember that it's important to value your emotions, but use your intellect when you're making decisions. And you know what? If you don't get the job, you've learned a huge amount of experience from applications, which I think is a skill on its own. Interviews, again, another skill that you've acquired. So it's not all negative. And for me, don't forget to hope. And I'd like to share a quote by the Aga Khan during the Brown University in 96. I think he says, the right to hope is the most powerful human motivation I know. And I just so really would urge that never to lose hope.
Thank you so much for that perspective. Just before we finish, would it be okay if you can share a simple mindfulness technique with us?
Yes, sure, Nurbanu. I have a really good 3-minute mindfulness exercise, which is really been researched and proved to be really useful at times of appraisals and interviews. It's really good to give you grounding, gives you focus, and so it helps clarity. What I suggest is use as many times as you want, but try not to make it longer than 3 minutes. And I'll send you a handout. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. So the things I'd like you to do just to prepare for the mindfulness exercise is that you sit comfortably for 3-4 minutes, have your feet, both feet grounded, and for you to concentrate on a spot on the floor or close your eyes or just look at the screen. And I'll talk you through it. It's a really busy exercise. It's really good for beginners so they don't lose concentration. Okay, so if you're all ready, then I'd like to start. The first thing I want to do is ask you to create awareness. Create awareness outside of the room and create your awareness by acknowledging everything that you're creating awareness with. It could be noises, sounds, like the doors closing and opening, like people passing by, maybe even people talking, could be cars, could be the wind rustling. Anything you pay attention to, I just want you to acknowledge without wanting to make any changes, without being judgmental. I want you to then create awareness inside the room and focus on anything that you're creating awareness with. Could be my voice, could be a clock ticking, could be machinery. Again, without judgment, just acknowledge and then focus on your breathing. Focus on yourself. Focus on your pains, your aches, your stresses, all your feelings, all your thoughts, and if you're able to manage, starting with your head, going down the nape of your neck, if you can manage the top of your shoulders where maybe the stress is, maybe when you're swallowing, maybe the tension behind your eyes, maybe around the ears, maybe around the chest when you're breathing. And if you're able to acknowledge any sensations in your stomach, and then going to your spine, each vertebrae down your back. If you can bear to manage the top of your shoulders, your upper arms, your lower arms, your hands, your fingers. And if you're able to manage, create attention and focus around the top of your legs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, your feet. Just feel that strong ground that's supporting you, holding your weight. And recreate your attention and focus on your breathing. And again, as if you're lining everything up, as if you're just saying hello with a smile, moving on without asking any questions, without being judgmental, without being punitive, without being critical, without wanting any changes. Recreate your awareness around your feet, lower legs, upper legs, the whole of your spine, the whole of your torso, the whole of your arms, your face, all those thoughts, all those feelings, all the aches and pains. Create awareness inside the room, outside of the room, and when you're ready, you can engage with us again. Okay, how was that?
That was really relaxing. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So this brings us to the end of this podcast. I hope you found this both calming and informative. For more help and support on your employment journey, please go on the COVID-19 section of the Dr. Smiley /UK website, where you'll find a growing list of employment resources and best practice guides. Thank you so much again, Rosamond, for joining me and answering these really important questions for us and the Jamaat.
Thank you. Maula Ali Madad.